everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of our Subway Surfers series in Scratch. In this tutorial, we're going to be adding a variety of trucks, and we're going to be adding a scrolling background. So that's going to be exciting. The first thing we're going to do is click on our stage, and let's click on backdrops. And this is where we're going to be adding our backdrop. Let's click on choose a backdrop, and the one I'm going to be choosing is blue sky. So there we go. Our cat is now on a blue sky background. What we're going to be doing now is moving these bushes or plants or whatever onto our new sprite. So let's go ahead and do that. Now let's click on paint and let's call this sprite scrolling background. Just go around scrolling background. Okay. Now what we're going to be doing is going back to our stage, and we're going to be dragging this costume and moving it onto our sprites. So we can do that by dragging this costume and putting it onto our scrolling background sprite. You'll see that this costume wiggles a little bit there. Now our costume is on the sprite, and what we're going to be doing is deleting the bushes from the stage right here. So the only thing we have left is this blue sky. Let's make sure it fills the whole screen by expanding. Okay, now let's go back to our scrolling background sprite, and we're going to be deleting that blue sky. So now we only have our bushes. Okay, let's go back to our code, and we're going to be coding this, of course. Let's make a variable called scrollX, and this is going to be keeping track of how much scroll we have in our game. Let's hide the variable, and we'll need to reset it. So let's drag out when green flag click, set scrollX to 0. Let's make another variable, and we're going to be calling this clone. Make sure this is for this sprite only, and let's press OK. Now let's hide this variable, and we're going to be setting the clone to 480 after we set scrollX to 0. Now let's drag out when I receive update. Let's go first to the back layer, so this will appear behind everything else like our cat and our trucks. And then we'll change scrollX by -3. So that'll be moving scrollX backwards when we play the game. The last code we're going to be needing is set X to 2. So what are we going to put in here? Let's go to our operators category, and we're going to be dragging out this block called mod, which you've probably never seen or known about until now. So inside of this right here, we're going to be dragging out clone variable. And inside of this one right here, we're going to be dragging out scrollX divided by 2. Pressing play. Now you'll see that our background appears, but there's only one of it, and our second half is just empty. So to fill in the second half of the screen, we're going to be creating a clone. Let's go to control and drag out create clone of myself. Then when we start as a clone, let's set clone to -480. And this should work instantly. You shall see a clone appears, and it's scrolling seamlessly. Now here's a quick little hack to make our scrolling a little bit more seamless. We're going to be using a size hack, and that'll make sure our clones can go off the screen completely. Let's go to looks and drag out set size to 400. Then after all of this code, let's set size to 100. It won't be very noticeable, but if you look closely, you'll see that it has a more seamless touch to it. Save, and we're going to move on to the next part, adding a variety to our trucks. Let's go to our truck sprite and costumes, and you'll see that there's multiple trucks, but they're not showing when we press play. And the reason for this is, let's go back to our code, and you will see we're setting our costume to truck A, and we're not choosing between the other costumes in the sprite. Let's make a sprite called costume, and let's press OK. Instead of switching costume to truck A, let's switch costume to our costume variable. Now whenever we start as a clone, we need to choose between a random costume. Let's set costume to pick random 1, 2, 3, which is the number of random trucks inside our costume. Okay, let's press the green flag and let's wait. There we go. So now we have a variety of trucks. I also think we want to add a variety of spawn rates because they're all spawning at the same time and it's getting pretty repetitive. So instead of waiting 2 seconds, let's use pick random 1 to 3 seconds, and then let's move this create clone myself and put it at the top. So we create a clone and then we wait random seconds. The last thing we're going to be adding is making sure our trucks can go fully off the screen, because right now you'll clearly see that it spawns on the right. When it goes to the left, it just disappears and we don't want that. Let's make a variable called X for this sprite only. Also, let's make another one called speed. Since our code is getting a little cluttered here, let's make a custom block called setup and let's press OK. We're going to be putting all of the stuff we do after we create a code inside of here. So let's move the repeat block off. Let's put this show block and all the stuff under it into the setup block. One block replaces these 4 lines, right? And that just saves a lot of space. Now, since each of our trucks is going to be having a random speed, let's do that right now. Let's set speed to pick random, and the values I'm going to choose are 4 to 8. Also, we'll need to set our X variable to something. Let's set X to 300. Now what we're going to be doing here is replacing X position with X, and instead of minus 300, let's use minus 500. Now let's take out this change X by minus 5. Let's use change X by minus 5. Now what about the trucks that have random speeds? Let's drag in speed, but don't connect it yet. Let's go to our operators and drag out our multiply block, and we're going to be multiplying minus 1 times speed. So that'll make sure if our speed is 4, we change minus X by minus 4, because we're multiplying minus 1 times speed. Now let's go to our motion, and we'll need to set X to X. That's a little confusing. Now we're going to be using our SYS hack again by setting SYS. Where is it? Alright, setting SYS to 400 before, and then after code we set size to 100. But since our truck is at size 70, let's set it to 70. And for this hack to fully work, let's go to our costumes, and we're going to be doing another hack that I also discovered. Let's first make sure that our outline is 0. We're going to be setting the fill to nothing. Then let's select our rectangle tool. And trust me on this, we're going to be drawing a huge rectangle covering the entire screen. Again, we're going to be doing that for the last costume. Let me make sure the fill is at something so I can see it's being drawn. I'm drawing a rectangle, and let's set the fill to nothing again. So now you can see our truck is scrolling completely off the screen. Each truck has its own speed and each truck has its own costume. Nice. Okay, so the last thing we're going to be doing is adding fast falling. Let's go to our player sprites, and we're going to be adding a few variables. Let's make a variable called grounded for this sprite only. And the last variable we'll need is called fast falling. Let's also make sure this is for this sprite only. Instead of having our jump inside of the physics block, let's take it out. So we're going to be dragging out if keys pressed, then we're going to be setting grounded to true. So set grounded to yes. Now that will make sure that grounded is yes if we're on the ground. And we also need to make sure that we set grounded to null if we start the game. So let's set fast falling to no also, because we're not going to be using that fast falling when we start the game. Let's drag out when green flag clicked forever, and we're going to be putting this inside of its own separate code. Because we're going to be using a special block called wait until, which would mess up the broadcast messages inside of here, let's drag out our new if key space press block before we jump. Now to make sure we're on the ground, let's drag out if grounded is yes, so that'll make sure we only can jump once if we're on the ground because we jumped. We're not on the ground anymore, so let's set grounded to no. Now I want to jump a bit higher, so I'm going to set Y to 15, and I'm also going to go up and change the amount of gravity here we have from -1 to -1.2. That just seems a bit more realistic to me. You can keep it if you want. Okay, now since we only want to jump once, let's go to our control category and drag out wait until. And we're going to be waiting until we're not pressing the space. So let's go to operators and drag out not. And we're going to be using the key space pressed. So wait until not key space pressed. And let's put this in after we set grounded to null. So after we're waited and we're not pressing space, we need to detect if we're pressing the space bar again. So let's go to controls, drag out if then, and then put it all the way at the bottom of this if statement. So let's drag out if key space pressed. Well, then we'll need to set fast variable to yes. So we'll drag out set fast falling to yes. And then we actually need to be falling fast. So let's drag out change Y by -2.4. Those are the values I like. You can change them if you want. So I'm jumping and you see we jump a little bit higher. But if we jump and we hold down space, we do a fast fall, which is exactly what I said we're going to be doing. So what this does, it makes it a bit easier for the cat to maneuver between jumping from trucks. So that's the end of episode 2. If you want to see more series like our zombie shooters, make sure to smash subscribe and like button to see more of those. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.